The Star Hall was filled with light, music, and voices from across the galaxy. Leaders, warriors, and nobles gathered on the neutral planet of Veranos. It was the place where peace was kept through words, not war. Today, the Princess of the Valquari Empire was meeting with a human envoy for the first time. Everyone expected a formal meeting. Some expected arguments, but no one expected what actually happened. Princess Aurelia stood tall near the shining columns, her royal robe glowing under the crystal lights. She was 19 cycles old, young by some standards, but already carrying herself with pride. Her race, the Valquari, were known for strength, honor, and power. She had grown up surrounded by stories of great warriors and victories. Today she believed she would face a human diplomat equal to her rank, someone important, someone who deserved. To meet her, then he arrived. He walked in quietly without fanfare. He wore a simple black jacket with no medals, no gold, no marks of power. His steps were calm, his eyes focused. His name was Ethan, just Ethan. No one knew his full title and no one introduced him with drums or horns. He bowed slightly to the host, then stood at the bottom of the platform waiting. Princess Aurelia blinked. This was it? This man? She narrowed her eyes and stepped forward. "Are you the human envoy?" she asked, her voice sharp. Ethan nodded once. Aurelia looked him up and down, letting her words drip with insult. No armor, no rank. Sword. Do humans send servants now, in place of leaders? Whispers spread in the crowd. Some laughed quietly. Others stared. Ethan didn't answer. She stepped closer, her tone louder. "Tell me, do you understand what kind of person you're speaking to? I am the daughter of High Queen Teresh, trained in the battle dome since I could walk. I carry bloodlines older than your son." Ethan said nothing. "Say something," she pressed. "Defend your honor, human." He looked at her, calm and unshaken. Silence wasn't fearful, it was steady, controlled. Then he did something that caught everyone by. Surprise! He turned around. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't bow again. He just walked away. Slowly, without rushing, without anger. Without a single word, the hall went completely silent. No one moved. Princess Aurelia's mouth stayed open. She hadn't expected that. She had won arguments before. She had defeated strong warriors in duels. But no one had ever ignored her. No one had ever walked away like she didn't matter. What was that? One of her guards whispered. Someone else muttered. Was that shame or something else? Back at the human diplomatic ship, Ethan entered without speaking to anyone. He sat down in a quiet room and looked at a data tablet. Oh. His commanding officer joined him minutes later. The meeting didn't go well, the officer asked, raising an eyebrow. Ethan just said, "She's not ready yet." "Ready for what? To listen?" The officer frowned. "That's it? She insults you in front of everyone, and you just leave." "It's not about me," Ethan replied softly. "It's about what's coming." Those words were strange. The officer leaned forward. "You're sure?" Ethan nodded, completely. Meanwhile, back in the Star Hall, Princess Aurelia paced in her private chamber. Her pride had won, but her heart felt strange. She kept replaying the moment in her head, how he looked at her, how he walked away. He hadn't looked weak. He hadn't looked afraid. He looked like a man who had made a choice, quiet, powerful choice. One of her advisors entered. "Should we prepare a message of warning to the Human Alliance?" "No," she snapped. "Got them crawl back first." But even as she said that, she looked at the doorway, half expecting Ethan to return. He didn't. That night, Aurelia couldn't sleep. She pulled up the human's file on her screen. Very little was written. No noble family, no military medals, just a note. Has completed more silent missions than any other operative. There was no public record of his full name. That one line stood out. Recommended for diplomacy when quiet power is required. She read it again. Quiet power, she whispered. She didn't know why. But those two words made her sit back in her chair, thoughtful for the first time in a long while. Ethan. On the other hand, stood at the edge of the observation deck on his ship, looking out into the stars. He didn't smile, didn't frown. He just watched. He had done his part. Sometimes words fail. Sometimes silence speaks louder. And this time, silence had begun something no one expected. A new silence settled over the Star Hall, even after the music returned and the lights kept glowing. Princess Irela smiled and greeted the next guest as if nothing had happened, but something inside her had changed. Had left without a single word, and that silence stayed in her mind like a shadow. Back in her quarters, she paced the floor, trying to understand what had gone wrong. She had insulted many others before. Some shouted back, some fought, some begged, but no one had ever looked at her with steady eyes and walked away. Why didn't he say anything? She muttered. Perhaps he thought it wasn't worth a reply, her assistant said gently. She turned sharply. Then he's a fool. Silence is not strength. But even she didn't believe that. Meanwhile, in the human ship, docked above Veranos, Ethan reviewed a list of encrypted messages he had sent before the meeting. The messages weren't just about the summit. They were about what he saw coming changes in alien movements, secret alliances forming, and a powerful fleet that had disappeared beyond mapped space. While others prepared for formal talks, Ethan had been watching patterns, tracking rumors. His mission was never just about words. It was about reading the room when others missed the truth. His commanding officer joined him again. "You sure you don't want to explain what you did back there?" the officer asked. "I did explain," Ethan said calmly. Just not with words." The officer chuckled. "She's the youngest royal in their history. Proud, bold, famous among her people. And you made her speechless." Ethan didn't reply. He simply opened a new data file, an old record of the Valquari Empire. At the bottom, a strange symbol pulsed slowly, a triangle with a line through it. Few had noticed it, but Ethan had. It wasn't just history. It was a warning. Back on the planet, Princess Irela sat with her war council, pretending to focus on politics, but her thoughts wandered. Her advisors gave updates about mining rights, trading lanes, and shared patrols with humans. Then one elder said something that caught her attention. "The humans pulled back patrols in Sector 9, he said. Without warning, Irela leaned forward. "Sector 9. Isn't that near the Lost Belt?" The elder nodded. "Yes. And they've gone quiet. Even their embassy stopped sending updates." A chill ran down her spine. She remembered how Ethan had looked at her steady, quiet, like he knew something no one else did. Find out why they pulled back, she ordered later that evening. She received a report. It was short but strange. The human envoy, Ethan, had visited the ancient archives before the summit. He hadn't requested access through royal permission. He had simply walked in and left within an hour. "That's not possible," she said. "The vault only opens to our bloodlines." But the record showed his presence. The security system had accepted his touch. She stood in silence for a moment. The only other person in their history who unlocked the vault without a royal code had disappeared centuries ago. Iray walked alone to the vault that night. Her guards offered to come, but she refused. Inside the dark chamber, the glowing stones lit up as she entered. She placed her hand on the reader, and the vault opened again. But she wasn't here to open it. She wanted to check the logs. The system showed a single visitor before her. Right name, Ethan clearance granted. Timestamp, 1 day before the summit. Short audio file was left behind. Unsure what to expect, she played it. His voice came through, calm and slow. "You think silence means weakness, but you'll find soon that silence listens. Silence prepares. When the storms rise, the ones who shout the loudest will fall first, and those who waited will be ready." Her hand trembled. What did he mean? She didn't understand the message fully. But one thing became clear. This human wasn't ordinary, and she had made a mistake. She returned to her chambers in silence. Her pride was still there, but it had cracked. She had treated him like a fool, but now she realized he might be the only one who saw what others couldn't. On the human ship, Ethan received a private message. It was a single symbol, the one from the vault, now sent back by the Volquari systems. He smiled slightly. It meant she had found the message. It meant she had begun to think. The game was moving now, and he was still silent. The next morning, Princess Irela woke up early. The strange message from the vault still echoed in her mind. Her advisors knocked, waiting for her to prepare for the final day of the summit, but she ignored them for a while. Instead, she opened her personal data screen and searched again for any human records about Ethan. But there was still nothing new. Just the same quiet profile with a note, Observer Class Operative. Deep Trust Status. What did deep trust mean? She closed the file and stood up. The summit would continue, but things were changing now. She could feel it. Outside, the Peace Summit looked normal. Delegates from 12 different species gathered in the open-air forum. Banners flew, food was served, and songs were played by musicians from different worlds. Everyone smiled. But hidden beneath the joy was a quiet tension. Several mining disputes had turned into silent threats. Border patrols had started vanishing in certain sectors, and the humans, usually open in their words, had grown distant. A tall alien leader from the Nourier system leaned toward Irela as they walked. Your Highness, we heard the humans left without comment yesterday. Why? Irela gave a small smile. Perhaps they're waiting to see who listens. The Northy leader blinked. That's unexpected. Princess Irela said nothing more. Back on the human ship, Ethan sat in a quiet room with 3 others. They weren't diplomats. They were part of a hidden team that studied threats before they appeared. One of them, a woman with short silver hair, leaned forward. We confirmed the source, she said. A forgotten signal from beyond the core systems. Same signature as the one Ethan found in the ancient Volquari vault. Another nodded. The pattern is the same. The same triangular code. It's moving. Slowly. Like it's searching. Ethan stayed quiet. Do we warn them? One asked. Not yet, Ethan said. They won't believe us. Not until it touches them. The others didn't argue. Ethan stood and looked out the small window toward the summit towers. She opened the message, he said softly. She's beginning to see. At the summit, Irela watched closely as the human delegation returned. But Ethan wasn't with them. Instead, the humans sent a captain in a dark blue uniform. He spoke politely, answered questions, and promised future talks. But his words were dry. Practiced IRAY. La stepped aside from her group and walked up to him alone. Where is Ethan? She asked. The captain didn't smile. He's elsewhere. What does that mean? It means he's doing what he does best, watching what others miss. She frowned. Is he a soldier? No, the captain said. He's worse. He sees the truth before others want to admit it. Before she could ask more, the captain bowed and left. That night, as the summit celebration began, Irela walked away from the crowd and climbed to the top of the observation tower. The stars above Veranos were bright and clear. She sat on the edge, thinking. A soft beep broke the silence. A wrist-com lit up. One unread message sender. Unknown title. For when your reddish opened it, a single map appeared on the screen. Showed space routes, systems, and marked locations. What? Part of the map blinked slowly in red. It was an empty Regino trade. No colonies, no patrols. Just space. Do not let history repeat. Silence is not absence. She sat up straight. The signal was growing. Someone or something was moving through the quiet zones, and Ethan had known all along. The next day, an emergency meeting was called. 2 starships from different species had vanished near the red-marked region. No signals, no escape beacons. Just silence. Leaders argued over what to do. Pirates, someone said. A black hole, another guessed. A human trick, one hissed. Princess Irela stood. Enough. This is not a game. And if the humans are quiet, maybe we should finally... Listen. Everyone stared. She continued. We laugh at silence because it makes us uncomfortable. But what if silence means warning? Others watched closely. The Northy leader spoke. You think the human knew? Irela nodded. He left me a message in our sacred vault. No one else could have unlocked it. He knew something. And he's not afraid. That worries me more than anything. Outside the summit walls, Ethan stood beside a small scout ship. He watched from a distance as guards moved, diplomats shouted, and panic began to spread. He whispered quietly to himself. Now they begin to hear. Inside his hand he held a device, small triangle with a line through it, the symbol from the vault. It blinked once, then stopped. Something had just entered mapped space, and silence was ending. The sky over Veranos was quiet, but the people under it were not. Inside the great council hall, tension filled the air like smoke. Reports of the missing starships had shaken the summit. Leaders blamed each other, demanded answers, and looked. For someone to blame, they were taken, someone said. Nonsense. They're lost in ion storms. The humans knew. They pulled back for a reason. Princess Aurelia stood near the center of the room, silent. She listened, but her thoughts were somewhere else. She kept thinking of Ethan's message, the strange triangle symbol, and that blinking red spot on the map. Something was moving in the dark. Something only he had warned about. A diplomat from the Jaren Alliance turned to her. Your Highness. What do you say? She looked at him. I say we stop arguing and start preparing. Preparing for what? He snapped. For the silence that's coming. No one replied. Some looked confused. Others looked nervous. Later that day, Aurelia returned to the ancient vault. She walked past the glowing walls, past the symbols of old kings, and stopped at the stone circle in the middle of the floor. She placed her hand on it again. This time the vault didn't show her records, showed her a new message. Ethan's voice played once more. You thought I came to speak? But words are wasted on ears that won't listen. Now the silence is over. Soon you'll have to decide if your pride matters more than survival. Then the screen changed. It showed images, old ones. A forgotten war, long before the current empires rose. Ships vanishing, planets going dark. A shadow moving between the stars. And one strange object left behind in every place. The triangle. With the line, she stepped back, heart pounding. Why was this hidden? A voice behind her said, because they were too afraid to believe it. She spun around. Ethan stood there. No guards, no weapons. Just him, calm as ever. How did you get in? She asked. You left the door open. She stepped toward him. You knew about all of this. The missing ships. The triangle symbol. Why didn't you say it at the summit? Because they would have laughed, Ethan said softly. Just like you did. She looked down. I didn't understand. You do now. They stood there in silence. No anger, no pride, just truth. What is it? She asked. What's coming? Ethan looked at the screen. You call it the empty swarm. It's not an army. It's not even alive in the way we understand. It moves through space, erasing signals, eating power, breaking systems. It doesn't speak. It doesn't stop. It just comes. Why now? Because we woke it up. She blinked. We. Long ago, your people found something and tried. To use it, they failed. The swarm went quiet, but someone, somewhere, tried again. She felt cold, and you knew. I saw the signs. Silence in the wrong places. Missing heat trails. Ships going dark without distress calls. I warned my people. We prepared. No. I'm warning you. How long do we have? Ethan looked at his small device. It blinked again. Not much. Why are you telling me? She asked. Because you stopped laughing. Shh. We gather everyone who's willing to listen. We form a shield line. Call the ships that matter. Not the big shiny ones, but the quiet ones. The ones that survive. Will they follow you? Shook his head. They'll follow truth. The princess nodded. Then we stand together. For the first time, she didn't see him as a weak human. She saw him as someone who chose silence not out of fear, but out of wisdom. They left the vault together that night. The skies over Veranos lit up not with stars but with fire. A ship fell from orbit, broken and glowing. Pieces crashed near the summit towers. Alarms rang. Guards ran. Ethan and Aurelia rushed to the scene. What they found made everyone stop. It wasn't just a destroyed ship. It was hollow. The walls were melted, systems drained. No bodies, no black box. Just a burned din. Mark, on the main wall, the triangle. Ethan stepped forward. It's here. The next summit was cancelled. Talks were over. Now it was survival. Irayla stood before the gathered leaders. Mocked silence. Now it's your turn to choose. Stay and fight, or fade into the dark. Some turned away. Some stayed. Ethan said nothing, but his presence now spoke louder than any words ever could. The broken ship still lay smoking in the valley below the summit towers. Even after the fire had cooled, no one dared go near it. Scientists scanned the wreckage but found nothing useful. No engines, no systems, no energy left behind. It was like something had drained the entire ship from the inside. The only thing that remained was the strange triangle mark burned deep into the wall. Everyone was silent now. All the noise. Pride and speeches from earlier had vanished. Leaders who once shouted during debates now stood quietly in corners. Princess Irela stood at the top of the command platform, staring out at the smoke rising in the distance. Behind her, the other leaders waited. Ethan walked up beside her. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't bow. The swarm is testing us, he said softly. First a scout ship, then one of our own. It's sending a message. Irela nodded. And what's the message? We're next. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in. She had never felt this kind of fear before, but now fear wasn't weakness. It was a signal to act. How many ships do we have ready? Asked. Not enough, Ethan replied. The humans sent 5 deep-range units, hidden ones. The rest are watching from behind, waiting to see who listens. And the others? Scattered? Afraid? Some still think this is a trick. She turned to the council behind her. And let them run. We won't chase them. We'll use what we have. She stepped forward and addressed the room. We stand together now, not as humans or Vaquari or any other species, but as survivors. We face something that does not care about rank, size, or language. It only sees energy. It only knows how to erase. And if we do not fight it together, it will take us one by one. Some nodded. Some looked down. Others still refused to believe. Ethan held up a small map. We believe the swarm is following a power trail. The more systems you light up, the more attention you draw. Your beacons, your weapons, your shields, they're calling it in. So how do we fight it? The tall alien asked. We don't light up, Ethan said. We go quiet. We move in the dark. And when it comes, we hit it with everything that doesn't shine. It was a strange plan. Not bold, not loud, but quiet and clever. Irela stepped in. We'll use the old ships. It's the ones without fancy tech. The silent ones. We build a trap. Ethan nodded. And we make it think we're weak. The next. Few days were filled with movement. Not panic, but purpose. Irela walked among the engineers, helping load supplies onto old ships. They found forgotten vessels from the first wars. Machines with no automatic systems. They ran on fuel, not solar light. They didn't glow. They didn't hum. They were ghosts in space, and now they were being brought back. Ethan worked with his team, setting up hidden relay points. Each relay sent out a faint signal shaped like a fake fleet. The swarm would chase shadows while the real fleet stayed low, cold, and silent. At night, Ethan and Aurelia sat on the hill overlooking the valley. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to, she said softly when you walked. Away from me that day, I thought you were weak. Gave a small smile. You weren't wrong. I wasn't ready to fight pride with pride. She looked up at the stars. And now we both are. Above them, the fleet was ready. It wasn't large, it wasn't powerful, but it was smart, and it was quiet. The first attack came without sound. Just a ripple on the long-range sensors, One of the false fleets blinked out, then another, and another. The swarm was moving fast. Ethan stood inside the old command ship. The room had no screens, no digital maps, just a steel table and physical trackers. Princess Irela entered, wearing light armor with no tech. "Only the essentials. They're here," she said. Ethan nodded. "Then let's begin." They activated the trap. From behind asteroid belts and shadowed moons, the old ships lit up for a brief second, just enough to be seen. The swarm moved toward them like a wave. Then everything went dark again. Silent missiles launched, manual torpedoes, hidden gravity mines. Every shot was aimed not for damage, but for confusion. The swarm wasn't used to this. It had adapted. Two bright weapons, fast ships, loud battles, not silence. It slowed down, it shifted, and then it made a mistake. It opened a signal of its own. Ethan caught it. "There's the core. Can we hit it?" Irela asked. He looked at her. "We can try." She smiled. "Then let's finish what we started." The final strike came from an old Valquari warship rebuilt in secret, run by hand. It fired one last heavy shell straight into the center of the swarm, and silence returned. Not fearful silence. Victory. The battlefield drifted in silence. The last wave of the swarm had vanished. Not with a scream or flash, but with quiet collapse. No fire, no echo. The core had been destroyed by a weapon built for a war no one remembered. What remained of the swarm was dust, lifeless particles floating in space, disconnected from their purpose. Inside the old command ship, Ethan and Irela stood near the window. Stars blinked far away, calm again. "Is it over?" Irela asked softly. Ethan nodded. "Once, for now. But it will come back. It always does. Maybe in years, maybe in centuries." Silence is patient. She looked out at the field where fragments of the silent fleet floated. Not many ships had survived, but enough to tell the story. "We won because we stopped trying to be loud," she said. "We stopped showing off." "Yes," Ethan replied, "and because you listened." There was a long pause. The silence between them was not cold or heavy. It was peaceful. Iray turned to him. "So what happens now?" Ethan gave a small shrug. "The empires will rebuild. Some will lie and say they planned this. Others will write stories that leave out the truth and us." He didn't answer right away. Outside, emergency ships began to arrive from nearby systems. They had waited, watching from safe zones. Now that the danger had passed, they were returning too late to help, but just in time to claim credit. Iray Law watched their flashing lights. "They'll pretend to be heroes. They always do. And you?" she asked. "Will you tell them what you did?" "No," Ethan said. "If they didn't listen before, they won't now. Then they'll forget." They looked at her. Not all of them. The door behind them opened. Survivors from different species entered. Some were hurt, some exhausted, but all looked at Ethan and the princess with quiet respect. They had seen what mattered. They'd followed truth, not titles. An old Northy captain stepped forward. "We owe you both." Irela shook her head. "We owe each other." We stood together. Another leader asked, "What do we do now?" Ethan answered, "We prepare." They stared at him. "We prepare in silence. Not with noise, not with grand speeches. We build smarter. We hide what needs to stay hidden. When the stars go dark again, we remember this day." No one argued. Later, as the old ships returned to base, Ethan sat on a quiet bench outside the main deck. He cleaned his gear by hand slowly, got carefully. Iray walked over and sat beside him. "You still don't speak much," she said with a small smile. "No need to," he replied. "But this time," she said, looking straight at him, "I want to say something." He waited. "I was wrong about you," she said. He looked at her, listening. "You weren't weak. You weren't a servant. You were the only one who saw what we couldn't." He stayed quiet. "I mocked you, humiliated you in front of others, and you just walked away," he said. because words wouldn't have helped then. "Do now," she whispered. "I'm sorry." Ethan didn't smile. He just gave a soft nod. "You saw the truth when it mattered. That's enough." They sat there together, two leaders who hadn't planned to lead. When her people first saw her leave the grand hall to sit beside a quiet human, they were surprised. But they no longer questioned it. They'd seen what the loud ones failed to do. They'd seen who had stood firm. From that day on, a new code was added to the Star Hall's walls. When silence walks away, follow it. And under it, a small triangle with a line through it. The symbol of warning. The symbol of those who listened. Many years passed. Stories turned into legends. New leaders rose. But deep in the archives of the galactic records, a file remained. Sealed, unread by most. Marked with a symbol .file name. Ethan status. Classified. Description: the one who left without speaking until it mattered. Note: silence is not weakness. Silence watches. Silence remembers. And when silence speaks, the galaxy listens.